The Immaculate Reception, December 23rd, 1972. Steelers versus Raiders in the playoffs. With 22 seconds left, Terry Bradshaw threw a desperation pass that deflected off someone, somehow, and Franco Harris caught it off his shoelaces for a touchdown. The Raiders were convinced it was an illegal catch. The refs disagreed. Pittsburgh went on to build a dynasty. But here's what most people don't know. The referee who made the call, Fred Swearingen, left the stadium through a secret tunnel and didn't speak to media for years. Some Raiders players, to this day, claim the whole thing was staged to save the league's investment in Pittsburgh. The footage from the best angle mysteriously disappeared from NFL Films archives. The official who signaled touchdown later admitted he wasn't even sure what happened, he just made a call. Was it the greatest play in football history or the greatest cover-up? That question has haunted the NFL for over 50 years. But if you think that's suspicious, wait until you hear about Super Bowl 40, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. February 5th, 2006. To this day, Seahawks fans insist the game was stolen from them by the officials. And when you look at the tape, it's hard to argue. There was the phantom offensive pass interference call on Darrell Jackson that wiped out a touchdown. The holding penalty on Sean Locklear that negated another score. The Ben Roethlisberger touchdown that wasn't a touchdown, where he clearly didn't break the plane. All crucial calls, all went against Seattle, all in the biggest game of the year. After the game, even prominent media members said it felt rigged. Bill Levy, the referee, later publicly apologized, admitting he kicked several calls. But why? Some say the league wanted Pittsburgh's emotional storyline, Jerome Bettis' hometown send-off. Others claim it was about television ratings in a bigger market. The NFL never launched an investigation. The result stood, and Seattle's only Super Bowl appearance in 2 decades ended in controversy that's never been explained. Then there's the 1985 supplemental draft. The league needed to save a struggling franchise in a major market. The New Orleans Saints were a disaster, and Tampa Bay wasn't much better. So when USFL star Bernie Kosar declared for the supplemental draft, the league had a problem. Kosar only wanted to play for Cleveland. He'd grown up in Ohio, went to Miami, but made it clear he'd refuse to play anywhere else. Somehow, despite teams like Minnesota and Houston having earlier picks, they all passed. Cleveland got him exactly where he wanted to go. Coincidence? Former executives have hinted that backroom deals were made, that Kosar's camp made it clear he'd sit out rather than play elsewhere, and the league orchestrated the whole thing. The NFL has always denied it, but the circumstances remain too convenient. A generational quarterback talent falls exactly where he wants, in a process designed to be unpredictable. The odds are astronomical. Speaking of draft manipulation, let's talk about Eli Manning and the 2004 draft. Manning made it crystal clear he refused to play for the San Diego Chargers, who held the first overall pick. His father, Archie, publicly stated Eli wouldn't sign with San Diego. The Chargers drafted him anyway, then immediately traded him to the New York Giants for Phillip Rivers and future picks. The trade looked clean on paper, but years later, reports surfaced that the league office had brokered the deal behind closed doors. Commissioner Paul Tagliabue allegedly wanted Manning in the massive New York market, not in smaller San Diego. Some insiders claim the trade was agreed upon before the draft even started, that the whole thing was theater. The Chargers got compensation, the Giants got their quarterback, and the league got its star in the biggest media market in America. Eli went on to win 2 Super Bowls. Phillip Rivers never won one, and the whole situation remains one of the most suspicious draft day deals in NFL history. But draft conspiracies are nothing compared to what happened with the 2001 expansion draft. When the Houston Texans entered the league, they were supposed to build through the expansion draft, selecting unprotected players from existing rosters. The process was designed to give them a competitive foundation. Instead, the Texans ended up with one of the worst rosters ever assembled. They went 3-13 in their first season and didn't have a winning record for 4 years. So what went wrong? Some former executives claim the league secretly allowed teams to protect more players than the rules stated. Others say Houston's front office received bad advice from league officials who were more concerned with maintaining competitive balance than actually helping the new franchise. Documents later showed that several marquee players who should have been available were mysteriously pulled from the draft pool at the last minute. The Texans were set up to fail, and they did, spectacularly. Was it incompetence or intentional sabotage? The answer might depend on how much you trust the league office. Now let's talk about the Tuck Rule game. January 19th, 2002. Patriots versus Raiders in a snow-covered playoff matchup. Tom Brady dropped back, pump faked, and got hit by Charles Woodson. The ball came loose. Oakland recovered. Game over, right? Wrong. The officials ruled it an incomplete pass based on something called the Tuck Rule, an obscure regulation that almost no one had ever heard of. The Patriots kept the ball, drove for a game-tying field goal, and won in overtime. That call launched a dynasty. But here's where it gets weird. The Tuck Rule was eliminated from the rulebook just 11 years later, with almost no debate. If it was such a good rule, why remove it? And why did it seem like the officials knew exactly what to call in a split second, in a blizzard, on a play most refs had never seen enforced? Some believe the league wanted New England to win because of the September 11th attacks earlier that year. A team called the Patriots winning the Super Bowl just months after a national tragedy? The storyline was too perfect. Oakland never recovered from that loss. Brady went on to become the greatest quarterback of all time, and that one call changed the trajectory of two franchises forever. Let's stay in New England for a moment. Spygate. In 2007, the Patriots were caught videotaping the New York Jets' defensive signals from the sideline. The league came down hard, fining Bill Belichick $500,000, stripping the team of a first-round draft pick, and fining the organization another $250,000. But then something strange happened. Commissioner Roger Goodell ordered all the evidence destroyed. The tapes were burned. No one outside the league office ever saw the full extent of what New England had recorded. Why destroy evidence if there was nothing more to hide? Rumors swirled that the Patriots had been doing this for years, possibly even during their Super Bowl wins in the early 2000s. Some former players claimed New England knew their plays before they happened. Then, U.S. Senator Arlen Specter got involved, demanding answers about why the tapes were destroyed. The NFL stonewalled. Goodell refused to cooperate fully. The whole thing was buried. To this day, no one knows how long the cheating went on, how many teams were affected, or what else was on those tapes. The Patriots dynasty remains intact. But the shadow of Spygate lingers, with more questions than answers. And if you thought that was the end of New England's controversies, think again. Deflategate. January 18th, 2015. The Patriots destroyed the Colts 45-7 in the AFC Championship game. After the game, it was discovered that 11 of the 12 footballs used by New England were underinflated, making them easier to grip in cold, wet conditions. The NFL launched an investigation, and the Wells report concluded that it was more probable than not that Patriots staff deliberately deflated the balls and that Tom Brady was generally aware of it. Brady was suspended 4 games. The team was fined $1 million and lost 2 draft picks. But here's where the conspiracy deepens. The NFL never explained why the Colts footballs were properly inflated while New England's weren't. The league's own physicists testified that the deflation could have been caused by weather conditions, not tampering. And despite all the controversy, the Patriots went on to win the Super Bowl that year anyway. Some believe Deflategate was a setup, that the league needed to punish New England for Spygate and used underinflated footballs as an excuse. Others think it was a smear campaign by rival teams tired of losing to Belichick. The truth? We'll probably never know. But the fact remains that the greatest dynasty in NFL history has more asterisks next to it than any other. Let's shift gears and talk about something even darker. The sudden retirement of Barry Sanders. In 1999, Sanders was 31 years old, coming off a 1,500-yard season and just 1,457 yards away from breaking Walter Payton's all-time rushing record. Then, out of nowhere, he retired. By fax. No press conference, no explanation, just gone. The official story was that he was tired of losing in Detroit and wanted to move on with his life. But that never made sense. Sanders was obsessed with football. Teammates said he lived for the game. So why walk away when he was so close to history? Some believe Sanders was forced out. There were rumors of a secret injury that the Lions were hiding, that Sanders had been playing through pain that could have ended his career permanently. Others claim he was offered money under the table to retire early so that the Lions could rebuild without his massive contract. Then there's the darker theory that Sanders knew something about the organization, something bad, and his retirement was part of a deal to keep quiet. Whatever the truth, Sanders has never fully explained his decision. He's hinted at frustration, at feeling unappreciated, but never given a complete answer. The greatest running back of his generation walked away in his prime, and to this day, the real reason remains a mystery. Then there's the NFL's relationship with painkillers. For decades, team doctors handed out pills like candy. Players were given Toradol injections before games to mask pain. Opioids were prescribed freely, and the league looked the other way. In 2014, former players filed a lawsuit claiming that NFL teams illegally dispensed medication without proper prescriptions and pressured players to take drugs so they could keep playing through injuries. Court documents revealed that some players were given narcotics on team flights, in locker rooms, and even on the sidelines during games. The lawsuit exposed a culture where injured players were treated as assets to be medicated and used rather than human beings who needed medical care. The NFL settled for $200 million, but the settlement came with a gag order. The players couldn't talk about what they experienced. The public never learned the full extent of the scandal, and the league moved on without ever admitting systematic wrongdoing. How many players were addicted to painkillers because of team doctors? How many lives were ruined? The NFL doesn't want you to know. Now let's talk about the blackballing of Colin Kaepernick. In 2016, Kaepernick began kneeling during the national anthem to protest police brutality and racial injustice. The gesture was peaceful, but it ignited a firestorm. By 2017, Kaepernick was unsigned, despite being statistically better than dozens of quarterbacks who had jobs. The NFL and team owners claimed it was about his performance, but the numbers told a different story. Kaepernick had a 16-4 touchdown to interception ratio in his final season. He had led his team to a Super Bowl just a few years earlier. Yet somehow, teams preferred signing backups and career journeymen over him. In 2019, Kaepernick settled a collusion grievance against the NFL for an undisclosed amount. The settlement strongly suggested that owners had coordinated to keep him out of the league. Text messages between owners and executives were reportedly part of the case, but they were never made public. The NFL paid Kaepernick to go away quietly. He hasn't played since, and the league has never admitted that blackballing happened, even though the financial settlement says otherwise. Let's go back further. The 1958 NFL championship game, often called the greatest game ever played. The Baltimore Colts defeated the New York Giants 23-17 in sudden death overtime. It was the first nationally televised championship, and it captivated America. But there's a strange footnote to the game that's often overlooked. Late in regulation, with the Colts driving, a fan ran onto the field, causing a delay. The interruption gave Baltimore extra time to set up their game-tying field goal. Some have speculated that the fan was planted by the league or even NBC to extend the drama. The game went to overtime, viewership spiked, and professional football exploded in popularity. Was it just a drunk fan, or was it orchestrated? No one was ever arrested. The fan was never identified. And the Colts went on to win in overtime, cementing the NFL as America's sport. The timing was too perfect, and the lack of investigation into who the fan was remains suspicious. Here's one that still haunts Saints fans. The 2018 NFC Championship game, New Orleans versus the Los Angeles Rams. Late in the fourth quarter, with the Saints driving and poised to take the lead, Drew Brees threw a pass to Tommy Lee Lewis. Rams cornerback nickel Roby Coleman arrived early, made contact before the ball, and committed one of the most obvious pass interference penalties in NFL history. The refs didn't call it. The Saints had to settle for a field goal, the Rams tied it, and Los Angeles won in overtime. The non-call was so egregious that even the NFL admitted the officials blew it, but the game result stood. New Orleans never got justice. The conspiracy theory? Some believe the league wanted the Rams in the Super Bowl because they had just moved to Los Angeles and needed to build a fan base in the second largest media market in the country. A small market team like New Orleans in the Super Bowl wouldn't generate the same ratings or revenue. The refs were instructed to favor the Rams, and they did. The NFL's apology meant nothing. The Saints were robbed, and the league got the matchup it wanted. Then there's the mystery of the 1963 NFL Championship. The Chicago Bears defeated the New York Giants 14-10 in brutal cold at Wrigley Field. But in the weeks leading up to the game, there were rumors of a gambling scandal. Several Giants players were reportedly seen meeting with known gamblers in New York. The league launched a quiet investigation, but nothing ever came of it. Decades later, some of those players admitted they had been approached by gamblers asking them to shave points. None admitted to actually doing it, but the fact that the league buried the investigation has always raised questions. Did mob influence reach into the NFL in the 1960s? And if it did, how many games were affected? The league has never fully addressed the issue. The championship game result was never questioned publicly, but the whispers have never gone away. Let's talk about the mystery of referee assignments. Every week, the NFL assigns officials to games based on experience, performance, and availability. But over the years, certain patterns have emerged that feel too convenient. Referees with reputations for calling tight games often get assigned to matchups where the league wants to control the pace. Officials known for favoring home teams frequently work primetime games in major markets. And in the playoffs, certain crews seem to always end up officiating games involving marquee franchises. Is it intentional? The NFL claims assignments are random and based on merit. But statistical analysis has shown that some teams consistently get favorable officiating, while others are penalized more than the league average. The most penalized teams tend to be small market franchises with struggling fan bases. The least penalized, big market contenders. Coincidence? Or carefully managed outcomes designed to maximize ratings and revenue? Now let's dive into one of the strangest stories in NFL history. The 1989 murder of Cleveland Browns player Don Rodgers. Wait, that's not right. Don Rodgers died of a cocaine overdose in 1986. But the conspiracy isn't about his death. It's about what the Browns knew before he died. Rodgers was a rising star, a Pro Bowl safety with a bright future. But behind the scenes, the team allegedly knew he had a serious drug problem. Teammates later claimed that coaches and front office staff were aware Rodgers was using cocaine, but covered it up because they didn't want to lose him. 2 days after his wedding, Rodgers overdosed and died. The NFL conducted an investigation, but the findings were never made fully public. Some believe the league buried evidence of widespread drug use across the NFL in the 1980s because acknowledging it would have destroyed the sport's reputation. Rodgers became a cautionary tale, but the deeper questions about what teams knew and when they knew it were never answered. Here's another one that keeps conspiracy theorists up at night. The 2002 expansion realignment. When the NFL realigned its divisions, several moves were made that seemed to benefit certain teams while hurting others. The most suspicious, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving from the NFC Central to the NFC South. That same year, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, defeating the Oakland Raiders, coached by John Gruden, who had been Tampa's head coach the previous season. Gruden knew the Raiders' playbook inside and out. He knew their signals, their tendencies, everything. The result was a 48-21 blowout. But why did the NFL allow a coach to face his former team in the Super Bowl just 1 year after leaving? And why did Tampa Bay get moved to a weaker division right before their championship run? Some believe the league orchestrated the realignment to give Tampa Bay an easier path to the playoffs, knowing that a small market team with a compelling storyline would make for great television. The Buccaneers never won another Super Bowl after that season, and the whole situation felt too scripted to be coincidence. Let's talk about the mysterious case of the missing game footage. In the 1960s and 70s, NFL Films was responsible for documenting every game. But over the years, footage from dozens of games has gone missing. Some of it was lost in fires or floods, but other reels simply vanished without explanation. The most notable missing footage? Key games from the 1970s involving allegations of referee bias, several playoff games where controversial calls decided outcomes, and multiple games where gambling scandals were rumored but never proven. Why would this footage disappear? Some believe the league intentionally destroyed evidence to protect its reputation. If certain games could be reviewed with modern technology and analysis, patterns of corruption might become undeniable. By erasing the footage, the NFL ensured that certain questions could never be definitively answered. To this day, historians and researchers have requested access to archived games, only to be told the footage no longer exists. Convenient, isn't it? Now let's discuss the NFL's relationship with Las Vegas. For decades, the league refused to put a team in Las Vegas because of gambling concerns. The NFL wanted to maintain its image as pure competition, untainted by betting interests. Then, suddenly, in 2017, the league approved the Raiders' move to Las Vegas. What changed? Critics say nothing changed except the potential for massive revenue. Las Vegas offered a brand new stadium, a huge tourism market, and corporate sponsorships from casinos worth hundreds of millions. The NFL's concerns about gambling evaporated the moment the money was on the table. But here's the conspiracy. Some believe the league has always had deep ties to gambling interests, dating back to the 1960s. Moving a team to Las Vegas was simply the NFL admitting publicly what had been true privately for decades. The sport is driven by betting. Billions of dollars are wagered on NFL games every week, and the league profits from it, directly or indirectly. The move to Vegas wasn't a departure from the NFL's values. It was an acknowledgement of what the league has always been about: money at any cost. Let's shift to injuries and the concussion cover-up. For years, the NFL denied that football caused long-term brain damage. League-funded studies claimed there was no link between playing football and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. Then, in 2005, Dr. Bennett Omalu discovered CTE in the brain of former Steelers center Mike Webster. The NFL attacked Omalu, tried to discredit his research, and pressured medical journals not to publish his findings. But Omalu kept pushing. More players were diagnosed posthumously. The evidence became undeniable. In 2013, the NFL settled a lawsuit with former players for $765 million. But the settlement came with no admission of guilt. The league still hasn't fully acknowledged the scope of the problem. Thousands of former players suffer from memory loss, depression, and cognitive decline. Some have committed suicide. Others have become violent. And the NFL continues to promote the game as safe, targeting kids as young as 5 years old for youth football programs. The concussion cover-up isn't just a conspiracy theory. It's documented fact. The only question is how much the league still hides. Here's one that sounds insane, but has some unsettling evidence behind it. The frozen field conspiracy. In the 1967 NFL championship game, known as the Ice Bowl, the Green Bay Packers faced the Dallas Cowboys in -13-degree weather. Lambeau Field was equipped with an underground heating system designed to keep the turf playable. But on game day, the system malfunctioned and the field became a frozen sheet of ice. The Packers, used to cold weather, adapted. The Cowboys, a warm weather team, struggled. Green Bay won on a last-second quarterback sneak by Bart Starr. Decades later, former stadium workers claim the heating system didn't malfunction. It was deliberately turned off. The theory is that Packers coach Vince Lombardi wanted the field frozen to give his team an advantage. The league investigated rumors after the game, but found nothing. Still, those who worked at Lambeau insist something wasn't right. Was it sabotage or just bad luck? The truth may have frozen over along with that field. Let's talk about the 1994 salary cap scandal. When the NFL introduced a salary cap in 1994, it was supposed to create parity and prevent big market teams from buying championships. But within a few years, teams were already finding loopholes. The most egregious offender? The San Francisco 49ers. In 2000, the league discovered that the 49ers had violated the salary cap by using deferred payments and creative accounting to hide millions in player compensation. The team was fined $300,000 and lost 2 draft picks. But here's the conspiracy. Multiple teams were doing the same thing. The Cowboys, the Broncos, the Packers, all were rumored to have bent the rules. But only the 49ers were punished. Why? Some believe the league wanted to make an example of San Francisco because owner Eddie DeBartolo Jr. had been involved in a gambling scandal in Louisiana. Others think the NFL was settling scores from the 49ers dynasty years when they dominated the league and created competitive imbalance. Whatever the reason, the punishment felt selective. The salary cap was supposed to level the playing field. Instead, it became another tool for the league to control which teams succeeded and which didn't. Now let's get into the bizarre. The Madden curse. For years, players who appeared on the cover of the Madden NFL video game suffered season-ending injuries, massive performance declines, or career-altering setbacks the following season. Barry Sanders retired. Dante Culpepper tore his knee apart. Michael Vick broke his leg. Sean Alexander fell off a cliff statistically. The pattern was so consistent that players began refusing to appear on the cover. Some believed it was just coincidence, bad luck amplified by media attention, but others wondered if something deeper was at play. Was EA Sports selecting players who were already injury-prone or due for regression? Was the curse a self-fulfilling prophecy where players felt extra pressure and pushed themselves too hard? Or was something more sinister happening? In recent years, the curse seems to have faded, but during its peak, the Madden curse was as feared as any defense in the NFL. Let's discuss the mystery of why certain coaches never get head coaching opportunities. For decades, African American coordinators were passed over for head coaching jobs despite having better resumes than the white candidates who were hired. The NFL claimed it was about qualifications and fit, but the numbers told a different story. The league instituted the Rooney Rule in 2003, requiring teams to interview minority candidates for head coaching vacancies. It was supposed to create opportunity. Instead, many teams conducted sham interviews, bringing in minority coaches just to check a box before hiring the candidate they wanted all along. The conspiracy is that the NFL never actually wanted diversity in coaching. The Rooney Rule was public relations, a way to quiet critics without changing the power structure. Even today, despite a league that's nearly 70% black, head coaching positions are overwhelmingly held by white coaches. The league has hired outside consultants, created incentive programs, and made public commitments to change, but the outcomes remain the same. Coincidence? Or a system designed to maintain the status quo? Here's one that involves America's team. The Dallas Cowboys have played more Thanksgiving games than any other franchise. Since 1966, the Cowboys have hosted a game on Thanksgiving every single year except 2. Why? The official story is that it's tradition, but the conspiracy is that the NFL gives the Cowboys preferential treatment because owner Jerry Jones wields enormous power within the league. Jones was instrumental in negotiating television contracts worth billions. He pushed for expanded sponsorship deals and stadium naming rights. In return, the league has rewarded him with prime scheduling, favorable officiating in crucial games, and consistent national television exposure. The Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl since 1996, yet they're still called America's team and treated like royalty by the league office. Some believe the NFL is propping up the Cowboys brand because it's good for business, even if it means other teams don't get the same opportunities. The Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in sports. The NFL wants to keep it that way. Let's talk about the phantom pass interference rule change in 2019. After the Saints were robbed in the 2018 NFC Championship, the NFL made pass interference reviewable via instant replay. It was supposed to fix the problem and give teams recourse when officials missed obvious calls. But then something strange happened. Officials refused to overturn pass interference calls. In the entire 2019 season, only a handful of reviews resulted in reversed calls. Coaches challenged obvious penalties, replay showed clear contact, and the officials still upheld the original call or non-call. It was as if the refs were intentionally sabotaging the rule to prove a point. By the 2020 season, the rule was quietly removed. The NFL claimed it didn't work, but the reality was that officials hated the rule because it made them accountable. They undermined it on purpose. And the league let them. The conspiracy is that the NFL never actually wanted pass interference to be reviewable. The rule change was just for show, a way to calm public outrage after the Saints debacle. Once the attention faded, the rule disappeared and nothing changed. Now let's dive into something truly dark. The mysterious deaths of former NFL players. Over the past 20 years, dozens of former players have died under suspicious or tragic circumstances. Some were suicides, others were car accidents or overdoses. A few were murders. The common thread? Many of these players showed signs of CTE or had histories of painkiller addiction. But instead of investigating whether football played a role in their deaths, the league has remained largely silent. When Junior Seau shot himself in the chest in 2012, his family donated his brain for research. The findings showed severe CTE. The NFL expressed sympathy but offered no accountability. When Dave Duerson took his own life in 2011, he specifically shot himself in the chest so his brain could be studied. He wanted the world to know what football had done to him. Yet the NFL continues to market the game as safe. How many more players need to die before the league takes responsibility? The conspiracy isn't that the NFL caused these deaths directly. It's that the league knows the game destroys brains and bodies, and it doesn't care as long as the money keeps rolling in. Here's one that involves the 2012 referee lockout. At the start of the season, the NFL locked out its regular officials over a contract dispute and replaced them with replacement refs from lower leagues. The replacements were a disaster. Blown calls, missed penalties, and chaos on every field. The breaking point came on Monday Night Football when replacement officials awarded the Seattle Seahawks a game-winning touchdown on a play where Green Bay clearly intercepted the ball. The blown call went viral, and the public outcry forced the NFL to settle with the regular refs within days. But here's the conspiracy. Some believe the NFL deliberately let the replacement refs blow that call to justify giving in to the union's demands. The league needed a dramatic, nationally televised disaster to save face after the lockout. And Seattle versus Green Bay on Monday night provided the perfect stage. The refs were instructed to let the play stand, no matter how bad it looked, so the NFL could end the lockout without looking weak. Did the league sacrifice the integrity of one game to win a labor dispute? The timing was too convenient, and the call was too obviously wrong for experienced refs to make, even replacement-level ones. Let's talk about the Las Vegas line and how it's always eerily accurate. Every week, Odds makers in Las Vegas set betting lines for NFL games. And somehow, those lines are almost always within a field goal of the actual final score. How is that possible? Games are chaotic. Injuries happen. Turnovers are random. Yet the betting lines consistently predict outcomes with stunning precision. Some believe that Vegas has insider information, that they know things about injuries, game plans, and player conditions that the public doesn't. Others think the games themselves are subtly influenced to match the betting lines. If too much money is on one side, a few key penalties or turnovers at the right time can swing the outcome just enough to protect the house. The NFL denies any connection between the league and gambling interests, but the accuracy of the lines suggests otherwise. Either Vegas employs psychics, or there's information flowing between the league and bookmakers that the public never sees. Here's a weird one. The 2007 New England Patriots were one of the greatest teams in NFL history. They went 16-0 in the regular season, demolished opponents, and looked unstoppable. Then they lost the Super Bowl to the New York Giants, a wild card team that barely made the playoffs. The upset was called one of the greatest in sports history. But some people believe the Patriots threw the game on purpose. Why? Because going undefeated and winning the Super Bowl would have cemented their legacy, but it also would have made Spygate even worse. If they were cheating and went 19-0, the asterisk on their dynasty would be permanent. By losing the Super Bowl, the Patriots could claim they weren't unbeatable, that the cheating didn't matter, and that other teams were just as good. It sounds insane, but think about it. The Patriots' offense, the most explosive in NFL history, scored just 14 points. Tom Brady, the best quarterback in the world, looked confused all game. And Bill Belichick, a defensive mastermind, couldn't stop a wild-card pass rush. Some believe Belichick knew exactly what he was doing. A perfect season would have destroyed their reputation. An imperfect one kept them human. Let's talk about the NFL's obsession with protecting quarterbacks. Over the past 20 years, the league has implemented rule after rule designed to keep quarterbacks safe. You can't hit them low. You can't hit them high. You can't land on them with your body weight. The rules are so strict that defenders don't know how to tackle quarterbacks anymore without drawing a flag. But here's the conspiracy. The league isn't protecting quarterbacks for safety reasons. It's protecting them because quarterbacks are the most marketable players. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, these are the faces of the NFL. If they get injured, ratings drop. Jersey sales plummet. Endorsement deals disappear. The league has a financial incentive to keep star quarterbacks on the field at all costs, even if it means fundamentally changing how defense is played. Defensive players have complained for years that the rules are unfair, that they're being penalized for doing their jobs. But the NFL doesn't care. As long as quarterbacks stay healthy and the highlights keep coming, the money keeps flowing. Player safety isn't the priority. Profit is. Now let's get into the draft lottery conspiracy. Unlike the NBA, the NFL doesn't have a lottery for draft order. The worst teams pick first. Simple, right? But over the years, certain teams seem to consistently get screwed by tiebreakers, strength of schedule calculations, and coin flips. Meanwhile, big market teams in major cities somehow always end up with convenient draft positions. The most suspicious example? The 2012 draft. The Indianapolis Colts, a massive market with a brand new stadium, finished with the worst record and got the first overall pick, Andrew Luck. Luck was the most hyped quarterback prospect since Peyton Manning, who had just left the Colts. The timing was too perfect. Indianapolis lost their franchise quarterback and immediately got the next one. Some believe the league manipulated the schedule to ensure the Colts would finish last. Others think the Colts tanked on purpose with the league's blessing. Either way, the narrative was too clean. One generational quarterback leaves, another one arrives. It kept the Colts relevant, kept fans engaged, and kept money pouring into Indianapolis. Coincidence? Or carefully managed outcome? Let's talk about the mystery of the 1985 Chicago Bears. That team is considered one of the greatest in NFL history. they dominated the league, shut out the Giants and Rams in the playoffs, and destroyed the Patriots 46-10 in the Super Bowl. Their defense was legendary. But here's the conspiracy. Some believe the league knew the Bears were going to win before the season started and built the entire year around them. The Super Bowl Shuffle music video was released in December, before the playoffs even started. The team was already treating themselves like champions, and the media coverage was unlike anything the league had ever seen. Every game was hyped. Every player was a star. The NFL marketed the Bears harder than any team before or since. Why? Because the league needed a dynasty in a major market. The Cowboys were fading. The 49ers were great, but played on the West Coast. The Bears were perfect, a huge market, legendary history, and a dominant team. The league got behind them, gave them favorable scheduling, and made sure nothing stood in their way. The Bears deserved to win. But did the NFL help them get there? The marketing push suggests they did. Here's one about weather manipulation. Over the years, several Super Bowls have been played in perfect weather conditions despite forecasts predicting rain or cold. The most notable example was Super Bowl 48 in New Jersey. Meteorologists predicted a winter storm that could dump snow on MetLife Stadium during the game. The NFL was terrified. If weather ruined the Super Bowl, it would be a disaster. Then, mysteriously, the storm shifted. Game day was cold but clear. Snow fell the day before and the day after, but not during the game. Coincidence? Some believe the league used weather manipulation technology to ensure clear skies. Cloud seeding, atmospheric intervention, whatever it takes. The NFL has billions of dollars at stake. If technology exists to control weather, even slightly, you can bet the league would use it. The official explanation is that the storm naturally shifted, but the timing was too perfect, and the NFL has never addressed the rumors about weather control. Was Super Bowl 48 saved by luck or by science the public doesn't know about? Now let's discuss the mystery of instant replay and when the league chooses to use it. Replay review was supposed to bring accuracy and fairness to officiating. But over the years, patterns have emerged that suggest replay is used selectively to benefit certain outcomes. Close calls that would help small market teams often stand as called. Meanwhile, questionable calls that favor big market teams in primetime games frequently get overturned. The most egregious example happened in 2018 when the Patriots played the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. A crucial pass interference call against the Chiefs was upheld despite replay showing minimal contact. The Patriots won in overtime. New England versus Kansas City. The league got the matchup and market it wanted. Some believe replay officials are instructed to consider ratings and storylines when making decisions. Not blatantly, but subtly. A tiebreaker here, a benefit of the doubt there. Over the course of a season, those small edges add up. The NFL denies any bias, but the numbers don't lie. Certain teams win more replay challenges than others, and those teams just happen to be the ones the league markets most heavily. Let's talk about the bizarre case of the disappearing playbooks. In 2008, the New England Patriots were scheduled to play the New York Jets in a crucial divisional matchup. Days before the game, the Jets claimed that their entire offensive playbook had gone missing from the team facility. Security footage showed nothing unusual. No break-ins, no thefts. The playbook simply vanished. The Jets had to install a completely new offensive system in less than a week. They lost the game badly. After the season, a former Patriots employee was found to have been working security at the Jets facility during the week the playbook disappeared. The employee denied any wrongdoing. The league investigated but found no evidence of tampering. The Jets never got their playbook back, and the Patriots won the division. Coincidence? The Jets certainly didn't think so. They accused New England of corporate espionage, but without proof, the allegations went nowhere. To this day, no one knows what happened to that playbook, but the timing, the connection to New England, and the lack of evidence all point to something more than simple misplacement. Here's one that involves the halftime show. The NFL's halftime performances are massive spectacles watched by over 100 million people. But choosing the performer isn't just about music, it's about messaging. In 2016, Beyoncé performed and used her platform to make a political statement about Black Lives Matter. The NFL was furious. Owners reportedly felt ambushed. Since then, the league has been much more careful about who gets the halftime slot. Artists are required to submit detailed plans for their performances, and the NFL has veto power over any content it deems controversial. Some believe the halftime show has become a propaganda tool, a way for the league to control narratives and avoid uncomfortable conversations. Performers who challenge the status quo don't get invited back. Those who play it safe get celebrated. The conspiracy is that the NFL uses the halftime show not to entertain, but to distract and pacify. While millions watch pop stars dance, the league's real controversies, player safety, concussions, labor disputes, stay buried. Let's dive into the strange world of jersey numbers and their alleged meanings. For years, conspiracy theorists have claimed that certain jersey numbers are cursed or blessed by the league. The number 18, worn by Peyton Manning and now retired by two teams, is considered lucky. Meanwhile, the number 88, famously worn by Michael Irvin and Dez Bryant in Dallas, is said to carry a curse of controversy and early retirement. Some players refuse to wear certain numbers because of superstition. Others claim the league assigns numbers based on psychological profiles, giving aggressive players numbers associated with toughness, while giving finesse players numbers associated with skill. Is there any truth to this? Probably not. But the fact that players believe it affects how they perform. And if performance is influenced by belief, then the jersey number conspiracy becomes self-fulfilling. The NFL has never commented on number assignments beyond basic positional guidelines. But the patterns are strange enough that some players take them seriously. Now let's talk about the Kaepernick workout debacle. In 2019, 3 years after Colin Kaepernick last played in the NFL, the league suddenly arranged a private workout for him. Teams were invited to attend and evaluate whether he could still play. It seemed like a genuine opportunity. Then things got weird. The workout was scheduled on a Saturday, the same day teams were preparing for Sunday games, making it hard for coaches and scouts to attend. The location was announced with only a few days' notice. And the NFL required Kaepernick to sign a waiver that would prevent him from suing the league for collusion. At the last minute, Kaepernick moved the workout to a different location and opened it to media. Several teams showed up, but most didn't. The whole event felt like a setup. Many believe the NFL never intended to give Kaepernick a real chance. The workout was designed to fail, allowing the league to say they tried while ensuring no team would actually sign him. Kaepernick's representatives called it a sham. The NFL claimed it was a good faith effort. To this day, Kaepernick remains unsigned. And the workout remains one of the strangest PR stunts in league history. Let's discuss the mystery of the salary cap and how some teams always seem to have money while others are perpetually broke. The salary cap is supposed to create parity. Every team gets the same amount to spend on players. But some franchises consistently field expensive rosters, while others struggle to sign anyone. How? Creative accounting, restructured contracts, and loopholes in the cap system allow savvy teams to manipulate their books. The Patriots did it for years. The Saints have done it. The Rams went all in and paid the price later. But here's the conspiracy. Some believe the league gives certain teams more leeway with cap violations than others. When the Cowboys or Patriots bend the rules, the penalties are light. When small market teams do the same thing, the punishment is severe. The NFL denies favoritism, but the history of cap penalties tells a different story. Big market teams get slaps on the wrist. Small market teams get crippled. It's a system designed to keep the rich rich and the poor struggling. The salary cap was supposed to level the playing field. Instead, it became another tool for the league to control outcomes. Here's a wild one: the NFL and military propaganda. For years, the Department of Defense paid the NFL millions of dollars for patriotic displays at games. Color guards, military flyovers, surprise homecomings for soldiers. All of it was sponsored content paid for by taxpayer money. The NFL presented these moments as genuine patriotism, but they were actually marketing campaigns for military recruitment. When this was exposed in 2015, there was brief outrage, but it quickly faded. The conspiracy goes deeper. Some believe the league coordinates with the government to promote certain narratives, especially around issues of patriotism and national identity. The national anthem controversy with Kaepernick wasn't just about protests. It was about the NFL's relationship with the military and the money that relationship generates. The league needs the military's money, and the government needs the NFL's platform. Together, they sell a version of America that serves both their interests. Players who disrupt that narrative get punished. The NFL isn't just a sports league, it's a political tool. Let's talk about the mystery of why certain players never fail drug tests. The NFL's drug testing policy is supposed to be random and fair. But over the years, certain players with known substance abuse issues somehow never get caught. Meanwhile, others get suspended for minor infractions. How does this happen? Some believe star players are tipped off before tests. A phone call, a text message, something to give them time to clean their system. The league denies this vehemently, but the coincidences are hard to ignore. Players who generate revenue and ratings seem to pass tests at higher rates than players on the roster bubble. The conspiracy is that the NFL protects its investments. If a superstar gets suspended for drugs, the league loses money. So the testing system is quietly managed to ensure that doesn't happen. Meanwhile, lesser-known players get made examples of to maintain the appearance of strict enforcement. It's a two-tiered system where the rules apply differently depending on your value to the league. Now let's discuss the strange case of the 2014 NFC Championship game. The Seattle Seahawks destroyed the Green Bay Packers 28-22 in overtime, but it should never have gotten that far. The Packers led 19-7 late in the fourth quarter and had the game in hand. Then everything fell apart. Fake field goal conversions, onside kick recoveries, miraculous two-point conversions. The Seahawks pulled off one improbable play after another. The final blow came in overtime when Russell Wilson threw a game-winning touchdown to Jermaine Kearse. Packers fans insist the game was rigged. The officiating was questionable throughout. Seattle got favorable spots, pass interference calls went their way, and Green Bay's offense stalled at suspicious times. Why would the league want Seattle in the Super Bowl? Because the Seahawks were defending champions, and a repeat trip meant higher ratings. Green Bay, while popular, didn't have the same national appeal. The conspiracy is that the league influenced the game just enough to give Seattle the edge they needed. And once the Seahawks had momentum, Green Bay collapsed under the pressure. Did the NFL fix the game? Or did Green Bay just choke? The answer depends on how much you trust the league. Let's talk about the mystery of stadium acoustics. Some stadiums are notoriously loud, giving home teams a massive advantage. Seattle's Lumen Field and Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium are famous for deafening noise that disrupts opposing offenses. But how much of that noise is natural? In the early 2000s, the Indianapolis Colts were accused of pumping an artificial crowd noise through the stadium's sound system. The league investigated and fined them, but the investigation was limited. Other stadiums have been suspected of doing the same thing, but the NFL has never launched a widespread probe. Why? Because if every stadium using fake noise was exposed, the integrity of home field advantage would be destroyed. The conspiracy is that the league knows artificial noise is widespread, but chooses to ignore it because addressing the problem would be worse than letting it continue. Home teams are supposed to win more often. Loud stadiums create exciting television. And if some of that excitement is manufactured, well, that's just good business. Here's one about the NFL's relationship with fantasy football. Fantasy football has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the NFL profits from it massively. But there's a darker side. The league has access to more information about player injuries, game plans, and matchups than the public. And some believe that information leaks to daily fantasy sports companies in exchange for money. If a company knows that a star player is more injured than reported, they can adjust their algorithms and profit from users who don't have that information. The NFL denies any wrongdoing, but the timing of injury reports and lineup changes often feels suspicious. Players are listed as questionable all week, then suddenly ruled out right before kickoff. By then, fantasy lineups are locked, and millions of dollars have been wagered based on incomplete information. The conspiracy is that the NFL and fantasy sports companies work together to manipulate information flow, maximizing profits for both while leaving regular fans in the dark. Now let's discuss the 2017 Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl collapse. The Falcons led the New England Patriots 28-3 in the third quarter. The game was over. Then the Patriots stormed back, tied it, and won in overtime. It's considered the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. But some people believe the Falcons threw the game. Why? Because the optics of the Patriots, representing Boston, coming back from 28-3 against Atlanta, a predominantly black city in the South, carried symbolic weight. The NFL allegedly wanted a narrative of redemption and resilience. The Patriots were still recovering from Deflategate and needed a legacy-defining moment. So the league ensured the comeback happened. How? Questionable officiating, strategic timeouts, and the Falcons' inexplicable play calling in the fourth quarter. Atlanta stopped running the ball despite having success. They passed at the wrong times, took sacks that pushed them out of field goal range, and made mental errors that championship teams don't make. Did the Falcons choke? Or were they instructed to let the Patriots back in? The truth may never be known, but the collapse was so total, so improbable, that suspicions linger. Let's talk about the mystery of the Pro Bowl. For years, the Pro Bowl was a joke. Players didn't try, the game was boring, and fans stopped watching. The NFL has tried everything to fix it, changing the format, moving the location, eliminating it altogether and replacing it with skills competitions. But nothing works. So why does the Pro Bowl still exist? Because it's a massive moneymaker. Corporate sponsors pay millions for Pro Bowl advertising. The league sells merchandise and licensing deals around Pro Bowl selections. And players use Pro Bowl appearances in contract negotiations. The game itself doesn't matter. It's a financial product disguised as a football game. The conspiracy is that the NFL will never eliminate the Pro Bowl, no matter how bad it gets, because too much money is tied to it. The league doesn't care about the quality of the game. They care about the revenue it generates. And as long as sponsors keep paying, the Pro Bowl will keep happening, even if nobody watches. Here's one about the sudden rise of analytics in the NFL. Over the past decade, teams have hired analytics departments and started using data to make decisions. Going for it on fourth down, aggressive two-point conversion attempts, and unconventional play calling have all become more common. But some old-school coaches and players believe analytics are ruining the game. The conspiracy? Analytics companies are influencing outcomes. If every team uses the same data models, they'll all make similar decisions. And if those models are flawed or biased, entire games can be skewed. Some believe analytics companies are funded by gambling interests who want predictable outcomes. The more standardized team strategies become, the easier it is to set accurate betting lines. Analytics aren't about making football better. They're about making it more predictable, more controllable, and more profitable for those who know how to exploit the system. Let's discuss the mystery of why some players get flagged for celebrations while others don't. The NFL has strict rules about excessive celebrations, taunting, and unsportsmanlike conduct, but enforcement is wildly inconsistent. Star players in big markets seem to get away with elaborate celebrations, while lesser-known players get penalized for minor gestures. The conspiracy is that the league uses celebration penalties to control narratives. If a player the NFL doesn't like scores a touchdown and celebrates, they get flagged to diminish the moment. If a player the league is marketing scores, the refs let it slide to maximize the highlight. It's subtle manipulation designed to shape how fans perceive the game. The NFL wants certain players to be stars and uses penalties as a tool to build or destroy reputations. Fans see the flags and assume the player broke the rules. But in reality, the rules are applied selectively based on who the league wants to promote. Now let's talk about the 2001 Patriots dynasty and how it was built. After September 11th, America needed a hero. The NFL needed a storyline. Enter the New England Patriots, a team that had never won a Super Bowl. Drew Bledsoe got injured early in the season, and Tom Brady, a sixth-round nobody, took over. Against all odds, the Patriots made the playoffs. They beat the Raiders on the Tuck Rule play. They beat the Steelers despite being massive underdogs. And then they beat the St. Louis Rams, the greatest show on turf, in the Super Bowl. It was a fairy tale. But some believe the league orchestrated it. The Patriots were the perfect team at the perfect time. A team called the Patriots winning the Super Bowl months after 9/11, the narrative was too good. Some believe the league gave New England every advantage it could. Favorable calls, convenient scheduling, and media hype that demoralized opponents before kickoff. Did the Patriots earn their dynasty? On the field, yes. But off the field, the league may have tilted the playing field in their favor. Let's talk about the mystery of concussion spotters. The NFL employs independent medical professionals called spotters who watch games from the press box and identify players who may have suffered concussions. When a spotter sees something concerning, they're supposed to immediately stop the game and have the player evaluated. But over the years, spotters have been criticized for being inconsistent. Star quarterbacks get pulled at the slightest sign of trouble. Unknown backup linemen get to stay in despite obvious head injuries. The conspiracy is that spotters are told to prioritize certain players over others. If a franchise quarterback might have a concussion, the spotter is quick to act because the league can't afford the bad publicity of a star dying on the field. But if a depth player gets hurt, the spotter looks the other way. It's a system designed to protect the league's image, not the player's health. The NFL denies this, but the evidence is hard to ignore. Some players get world-class medical attention. Others are treated as disposable. Here's one about the mysterious timing of rule changes. The NFL changes its rules almost every year, and the timing of those changes often seems suspicious. Pass interference became reviewable right after the Saints were robbed in the playoffs. Roughing the passer rules got stricter after Tom Brady suffered a major knee injury. Celebrations became legal again after the league realized fans liked them. The conspiracy is that the NFL doesn't make rule changes to improve the game. They make them to control outcomes and manage public perception. If a scandal erupts, the league changes a rule to make it look like they're addressing the problem. But the changes are always superficial. They rarely fix the underlying issue. The NFL is reactive, not proactive. And every rule change is carefully calculated to benefit the league's bottom line, not the integrity of the sport. Let's discuss the bizarre case of referee Tony Corrente. In 2021, Corrente ejected Chicago Bears linebacker Cassius Marsh for taunting after Marsh celebrated a sack. The penalty was weak, but what happened next was strange. As Marsh walked away, Corrente appeared to deliberately hip-check him. Video showed the ref making contact with the player in what looked like intentional retaliation. Marsh was furious. Fans were outraged. The NFL reviewed the incident and said Corrente did nothing wrong. No suspension, no fine, nothing. The conspiracy is that referees are untouchable. They can influence games, make terrible calls, and even physically contact players without consequences. The league protects refs because admitting they make mistakes would open the door to lawsuits and challenges. If fans and teams can't trust officials, the entire sport falls apart. So the NFL covers for them, no matter how bad the mistakes. Corrente's hip check should have ended his career. Instead, he kept officiating games like nothing happened. Now let's talk about the mystery of the 2006 Super Bowl, Steelers versus Seahawks. We mentioned this earlier, but it deserves more scrutiny. That game had some of the worst officiating in Super Bowl history. Seahawks receiver Darrell Jackson caught a touchdown pass, but it was called back for offensive pass interference. Replays showed minimal contact. Seahawks quarterback Matt Hasselbeck threw an interception, tried to make a tackle, and got called for a low block. It was a textbook tackle, yet it was penalized. And then there was Ben Roethlisberger's touchdown, where he didn't break the plane, but the refs gave it to him anyway. Seahawks fans have screamed robbery for years, and they're right. But why would the NFL rig the Super Bowl? Some believe it was about Jerome Bettis retiring. The bus was going home to Detroit for the final game of his career. The storyline was irresistible. Others think it was about market size. Pittsburgh is a huge football city with a passionate fan base. Seattle was still building its brand. The league wanted the outcome that made the best business sense, and that outcome was Pittsburgh winning, no matter how they had to get there. Let's talk about the mystery of why certain teams always seem to get primetime games. The Dallas Cowboys play on Thanksgiving every year. The Patriots dominated Sunday Night Football for 2 decades. The Packers get more primetime slots than any other small market team. Meanwhile, teams like the Jaguars, Titans, and Browns rarely see primetime exposure. The NFL claims scheduling is based on competitive balance and fan interest. But the reality is that scheduling is about money. Networks pay billions for broadcast rights, and they want teams that drive ratings. So the league gives primetime games to teams in big markets or teams with star players, regardless of whether they're actually good. This creates a self-fulfilling cycle. Teams that get more exposure attract more fans, sell more merchandise, and generate more revenue. Teams that don't get exposure struggle to build fan bases and remain irrelevant. The NFL could spread primetime games more evenly, but it chooses not to. The system is designed to keep a handful of teams at the top while everyone else fights for scraps. Here's one about performance-enhancing drugs and the NFL's testing program. For a league that claims to care about player safety and fair competition, the NFL's PED testing is surprisingly lenient. Players get suspended occasionally, but the punishments are light compared to other sports. Baseball players lose half a season. NFL players lose 4 games. Why the double standard? Some believe the league doesn't actually want to catch PED users because too many players are using. If the NFL tested as strictly as Olympic sports, half the league would be suspended. The game would fall apart. So the testing program is designed to catch just enough players to maintain the appearance of enforcement while letting the majority continue unchecked. The conspiracy is that the NFL knows PED use is rampant and chooses to ignore it because the alternative, admitting that most players are enhanced, would destroy the league's credibility. Now let's discuss the mystery of quarterback protection and how it varies by player. Tom Brady gets flags for being breathed on. Patrick Mahomes gets penalties called whenever he's touched. But lesser-known quarterbacks get demolished with no flags. The rules are supposed to apply equally, but enforcement tells a different story. Star quarterbacks are worth millions in revenue. Backup quarterbacks are not. So officials are instructed, subtly or otherwise, to protect the players the league markets most heavily. It's not a written rule, but it's understood. If you hit Tom Brady late, expect a flag and possibly a fine. If you hit a third-string quarterback the same way, play continues. The conspiracy is that the NFL has a tiered system of protection based on player value. And everyone in the league knows it, but no one talks about it publicly because acknowledging it would expose how corrupt the system really is. Let's talk about the mystery of why ties still exist. In most sports, games can't end in ties. There's overtime, shootouts, extra innings, something to determine a winner. But the NFL still allows ties after one overtime period. Why? Because ties create controversy, and controversy generates attention. Every time a game ends in a tie, fans debate whether the overtime rules are fair. Sports shows spend hours discussing it. Social media explodes. The NFL could easily extend overtime until there's a winner, but they don't. The conspiracy is that ties are kept in the rulebook intentionally because they're good for engagement. The league doesn't want every game to have a clean resolution. Ambiguity keeps people talking, and as long as people are talking, the NFL stays relevant. Ties aren't a flaw in the system, they're a feature. Finally, let's end with the biggest conspiracy of all. Is the NFL scripted? Not completely, not like professional wrestling, but influenced. Scripted isn't the right word. Guided might be better. The league can't control every play, every bounce of the ball, every decision a player makes. But it can influence outcomes through officiating, scheduling, media narratives, and subtle pressures. A flag here, a no call there, over the course of a season, those small edges add up. The best team doesn't always win. The team the league wants to win often does. Is it provable? No. The NFL is too smart to leave evidence. But the patterns are undeniable. Big market teams get more favorable calls. Star players get more protection. Playoff matchups consistently favor narratives that drive ratings. The NFL isn't football. It's sports entertainment disguised as competition. And once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. Every questionable call, every suspicious injury report, every convenient outcome, they all fit into a larger picture. The NFL is a business first and a sports second. And like any business, it does whatever it takes to maximize profit, even if that means manipulating the game we love.